And it didn't take long before rational thinking meant that within, I'd say you can debunk the story of Noah's Ark within 15 seconds. Shall we give it a go?
Go for it.
Okay, right, get the timer out. Count the number of mammals in each continent on Earth. South America has the highest number of mammals. How did they get there if there was no way in the last 4,000 years?
7 seconds.
Is it possible that the Sumerians, a civilization established in 4000 BC and located nearly 8,000 miles away, could be connected to the early inhabitants of Tiwanaku? If so, how? Ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer can be found at the Precious Metals Museum in La Paz, Bolivia.
This is perhaps one of the most important archaeological artifacts ever discovered at Tiwanaku or Pumapunku. This is the famous Fuente Magna bowl discovered near Tiwanaku. It's a ceramic bowl, and it has written on it Sumerian cuneiform plus Proto-Sumerian hieroglyphic script. This script is coming from circa 3000 BC. It draws a direct connection between the ancient Sumerians and Tiwanaku and Pumapunku.
Discovered near Lake Titicaca by a local farmer in the 1950s.
The Sumerians were the ones who invented the cuneiform writing system. The word cuneiform means wedge-shaped. It refers to a system of writing whereby scribes would take a wedge-shaped stylus and impress signs on wet clay tablets. Those tablets could later be fired and hardened and preserve what was ever written on them.
Cuneiform tablets in South America. We all know that cuneiform comes from Sumeria, ancient Babylon. So if the Sumerians reached South America, it's very possible that they took species with them and brought them to South America. And who knows where else mankind took different types of animals and placed them in different parts of the earth. In the year 220 BC, Hannibal takes control of Carthage around that time. And he takes his army, which was 50,000 troops. That also included 37 elephants and 9,000 cavalry. And he took them from northern Africa into Europe on boats.
Hannibal's builders would have to conquer Mother Nature.
Not only are the engineering feats daunting, but you also have crowds of insubordinate and hostile tribes waiting on the other side of the river.
The solution would be one of Carthage's most spectacular feats of engineering. A series of giant rafts large enough to shuttle animals and supplies across the river in record time.
These rafts were about 200 feet long and 50 feet wide. Now that means that you can't just use one single tree trunk. You have to also put multiple trees together and then lash those together too. This requires more than a Boy Scout knowledge of knots.
With speed and efficiency, Hannibal's soldiers harvested massive conifers from the surrounding forests and connected the trees together with rope. One thing his engineers had to account for was the psyche of the elephants. So once the logs were bound together, the barges were piled high with a layer of sticks and a layer of earth so that the elephants would think they were on solid ground. When all was ready, Hannibal gave the signal to release the barges. The Gauls, startled by his boldness, were mystified when they saw the Carthaginian general leading his troops, cavalry, and elephants en masse across the turbulent Rhone. When he arrived at the river's opposite bank, the Gauls broke in panic and fled without striking a blow. The entire operation took a little more than 9 days.
Now, that's an example from antiquity of Carthage. Now, let's look at evidence of Noah's flood.
One of the best-known stories of the Bible. And variations of this ancient tale can be found in cultures throughout the world. From ancient Hindu teachings and Mesopotamian legends to Mesoamerican myths, it is written that the gods sent a powerful flood to wipe out all of humanity.
God is angry at human beings because human beings have not been behaving properly. They have been violating God's laws.
Certainly the most famous of these is the legend of Noah. In Genesis, God becomes so disgusted with the behavior of his creation that he says he repenteth of making them. And he brings forth the deluge.
In stories much older than the story of Noah, in the story of Gilgamesh, the Sumerian legend, the Council of Gods brought the flood. And in Plato's writing, Zeus brought the flood.
In Hinduism, God had instructed that one day the whole earth would be flooded. When that happens, you build a boat and you gather the people, some animals, and I will save you.
The story of the Great Flood is often considered to be mythological. But similar stories of a cataclysmic flood can be found in approximately 1,200 different cultures around the world. And many anthropologists say that because these stories are so numerous and date back thousands of years, it is unlikely that they originated from a single source.
Scientifically speaking, proving the existence of God in 17 seconds.
Scientifically speaking, it's impossible for a random explosion to create life. The only way an explosion can create life is that it must be controlled. That means if the Big Bang is a scientific fact, then the one controlling this Big Bang of our universe, that mind, that entity, is the one we call God.
After spending more than a decade examining the issues and having at their disposal unlimited funding, unlimited access to the great libraries and laboratories of the world, Sir Frederick Hoyle and Chandra Wickramasinghe came to a conclusion. They stated that life originating in this universe or on planet Earth by naturalistic circumstances has one chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. Let me say that again. One chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. And then these two great scholars said, let's illustrate how impossible that is. They said it would be easier for a whirlwind to sweep through a junkyard and assemble a Boeing 747 jet in flight out the other end than it would be for life to have originated on planet Earth or in the universe by natural evolutionary means. Let me illustrate how large that number really is. One chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. You see, physicists tell us that in the entire universe, whether the universe began as an expression of the creativity of a personal God, or whether the universe began by naturalistic means, the sum total of data is identical. Now, according to the measurements and calculations of physicists, there are in the entire universe 10 to the 80th power of electrons. If we filled the entire universe with electrons, you know there's a lot of space out there, a lot of apparent nothingness, even though there are atoms and the space itself has a field of energy. But if we filled the entire space of the universe with electrons, which would be the smallest unit of measurable particle, if we filled it all, we would have 10 to the 130th power of electrons. Now, that means it would be easier for someone to mark a single electron, to blindfold a man, have him wander throughout the entire universe, give him one chance, one guess. He would have to accurately select that particular electron. It would be much easier for that to happen than for life to have originated by natural evolutionary means. Again, those figures are one chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. Now, these were not creationists and Christians and theologians analyzing the data. This was Sir Frederick Hoyle and Chandra Wickramasinghe, recognized internationally as great scholars. Is there a possibility that living systems could have evolved. Dr. Robert Gange, with the Smirnoff Research Facility in Princeton, New Jersey, has taken the literature from microbiological laboratories and has found that evolution is absolutely impossible. And he illustrates it like this. Inside all material is information. For instance, inside the atom, even the hydrogen atom, there's an informational exchange between the electron, proton, the neutron. There's an informational exchange. Dr. Gange takes the literature published by major scholars and major laboratories at major universities to show that you can take all of the natural information, the information in all of the natural inorganic materials of the entire planet Earth, and it comes out to be 160 bits of information. Now, 160 bits of information is a lot of information. Actually, 270 bits of information would be the equivalent of 10 to the 80th power. So that's a lot of information. All of the information and all of the natural elements of planet Earth, put together, the inorganic elements, the entire globe, that information is 160 bits of information. Let's take the entire solar system, including the globe, our Earth, the Sun, 8 other planets, asteroids, debris, etc., and it comes out to 170 bits of information. Let's take the entire universe. It comes out to be 235 bits of information. But now let's go to living material. Living material is another ball game entirely. Living material is extremely complicated. First of all, it's three-dimensional. And then every single component is interdependent and codependent on every other component. The smallest unit of living information we know anything about is a protein molecule. One protein molecule holds 1,500 bits of information. Now, did you get that? The entire universe of non-living material holds 235 bits of information, but one single non-replicating unit of living material, one protein molecule, holds 1,500 bits of information. What's the difference between 235 bits of information and 1,500 bits of information? Light years between. Now let's go to information that can produce a reproducing cell, a bacterium. A common bacterium is E. coli. E. coli is in the intestinal tract of every person watching this video at the moment. One single E. coli bacterium, just one, holds 7 million bits of information. Now let's go to a human cell. One single human cell holds 20 billion bits of information. If the evolutionist wants his primordial soup pond with the right gases, energy system, and lightning strokes, give it to him. Give him an entire Earth as a primordial soup pond. Give him the entire universe. Fill the universe with electrons and let the universe have his 15 billion years, 30 billion years. Give it an eternity of time for each electron to writhe, cohort, and experiment with every other electron in the entire universe. It is impossible for the entire universe, given an eternity of time, since it holds only 270 bits of information, to produce a single protein molecule, let alone a reproducing bacterium or ultimately a human cell. Watch this and we'll break. A book has been written recently by a major scholar in Australia, Michael Denton, Evolution, Theory in Crisis. And Dr. Denton admitted, evolution just won't work. He's an evolutionist, but it just won't work. He said, for instance, in the cell, the DNA provides the information for the protein synthesis apparatus. Yet, it's that protein synthesis apparatus that provides the very proteins for the DNA to exist. That protein synthesis apparatus provides the protein phosphate compounds for the energy system, yet the energy system, mitochondria, etc., provides the actual energy for the protein synthesis to function. That protein synthesis provides the proteins for the cell membrane, yet the membrane holds that entire synthesis apparatus intact. In other words, everything is interdependent and codependent on everything else. Evolution just won't work.